In this video, I want to talk about the truth behind Trump's announcement, the support for Ukraine. There's 7 surprising facts here, and you probably know 2 or 3 of them. If you know 4, you're ahead of everyone. If you know number 5, you're ahead of 90%. If you know number 6, you'll know more than 99% of the population. So let's talk about this and try to understand what's going on, because the devil is in the details. All right, so we see this in Reuters. Ukraine celebrates Trump's weapons reversal, but the devil is in the details. Well, that's truly the case. The devil is in the details. So let's look at fact number 1. So first, now it's clear that Trump has pivoted. There is a zag, not just zig toward Russia, zig toward Russia, zig toward Russia. We don't know how long that zag will last, but there is something. He made an announcement. He's going to be supplying weapons. The EU is going to be involved, or not EU, NATO, European nations from NATO are going to be involved in it, and it's going to be pro-Ukraine. The Russians are not happy about this, unequivocal, but that's the easy one. Let's go on and look at this. Yesterday, I was talking about, well, why did he do it? Putin's mistake? Well, it's not exactly so. Why do you do it? Johnny Pierce answered this in the live stream with Greg Terry and I. I'm not going to relitigate it, but you can go back to that video next. Okay, number 2. Let's look at what's going on with number 2. U.S. President Donald Trump said that some Patriot missiles are already on their way a day after announcing that NATO members would send weapons to Ukraine in a change in his stance against U.S. Weapons to the war-torn country. So what actually happened there? Because you saw at the same time, just after he said that Germany was saying that no Patriots are coming anytime soon, despite Trump's promises. Germany has pledged to provide Ukraine with 2 batteries, but the delivery of the first one will take months. So what's actually going on? We're not actually sure what's going on. Before we get to number 3, let's think through this, because Trump was actually saying just a little bit ago, later today, some would be in place. Now, some weapons are on the way, and that's been verified. But as far as Patriot systems themselves, or Patriot pieces of batteries, that's going to take some time. Number 3. Okay. So Sputnik was saying this: Trump's commitment of up to 17 Patriot batteries for Ukraine is a political gesture that won't affect the outcome of the conflict. Okay, so that, yeah, we understand that, but it's not Patriot systems. Like Sputnik got it wrong. It was Scott Ritter who got that wrong, who Sputnik is then propagating. It's not weapon systems. And you probably already understood this if you're paying close attention. There are only 96 Patriot systems worldwide, 36 in Europe. Large-scale transfers to Ukraine are unlikely. Zelensky said he needs 25 out of 96 worldwide. Probably isn't going to happen. But it's something, it's not nothing, and they're making some progress. And again, there is a legitimate pivot the right direction. Okay, number 4. So far, if you've gotten these and you understood these, okay, that's what most people understand. Let's go to number 4. Now, Financial Times said, breaking, Donald Trump has privately encouraged Ukraine to step up deep strikes on Russian territory, even asking Volodymyr Zelensky whether he could strike Moscow if the U.S. provided long-range weapons, according to people briefed on the discussions. Okay, and then we even see this here in WION. I believe this is an Indian broadcaster.
Start with breaking news. President Trump reportedly asked Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine whether Ukraine was capable of striking Moscow, actively encouraging more long-range strikes deep inside Russia. According to the Financial Times, the U.S. president told his Ukrainian counterpart that he wanted Ukraine to quote-unquote make them, which infers to Russians, feel the pain and force Putin to the negotiating table. According to the report, the U.S. president asked during the July 4th call, Volodymyr, can you hit Moscow? Can you hit St. Petersburg too? The Ukrainian
Okay, so that's being carried in the news. Even BRICS News was saying just in, President Trump asked Ukraine if they can strike Moscow, Russia. But then Trump denied it when he was asked about it. Trump told reporters he shouldn't target Moscow. Here he is. Listen.
Moscow. Should Zelensky target Moscow, sir? Should Zelensky target Moscow or deeper into Russia?
No, he shouldn't target Moscow.
Yeah, he shouldn't target Moscow. So a couple of things could be at play. Maybe he told him privately and then publicly he's denying it. That's possible. Or it could be that he's consistent and he didn't do it, and that's being erroneously carried. But it was a pretty big reversal if he did do that, and we just don't know. So it was carried in a lot of news yesterday that he said this, which with a lot of enthusiasm, and I understand the enthusiasm, but Trump saying he shouldn't do it. Okay. President Trump tells reporters the U.S. has no plans to provide Ukraine with long-range missiles and doesn't think that they should try to target Moscow. This is according to Caitlin Collins of CNN, following a report that he asked Zelensky if he could hit the Russian capital during a call. So I got to say, you can't really prove that he wanted to do that because he's denying it. So got to be careful with that one. Number 5. Here we are with number 5. If you promise to give weapons, says Kaya Kallas, but we are paying for them, they are not really given by you. This is a line that I've heard a lot about. Hey, the U.S. is terrible. They're just selling these weapons. Well, okay, I understand that. But there might be more to the story. It looks like it's possible, and it was just announced that this could be the case, and then it seems like it was announced that it is being the case. Frozen Russian assets will pay for Trump's Ukraine weapons. Here, Europe plans to use frozen assets to pay for Trump's $10 billion weapons package in Ukraine. Here it is in Euromaidan Press. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said that the deal involves NATO buying American air defense systems, missiles, and ammunition before delivering them to Kyiv. At least 8 member states have signed on to the scheme during Trump's Oval Office meeting with Rutte on the 14th. And then it said the plan involves a central NATO-controlled fund topped off by Europe, allies, and Canada, which would purchase the items from a Ukrainian government shopping list of American weapons. Poland's Foreign Minister Sikorski suggested that EU contribution could come from frozen Russian asset profits. Should it be a burden shouldered by our taxpayers or the Russians? He told colleagues, according to sources familiar with the discussions. So if that's the case, then what's happening here is that it's not, okay, the Americans are selling, the Europeans are buying, but they're buying with Russian money. So they're not even the ones buying. It's the Russian assets that are causing it to be bought. So that's number 5. And most people don't understand those dynamics. And that looks like how it's going to go down. Okay, this is where you set yourself apart if you understand this one. Trump did not warn EU countries that they would be buying U.S. weapons for Ukraine. Even Washington's closest allies learned about it only during his press conference. Like, were you aware of that? No agreements yet on who will supply what, and earlier Politico reported that France refused to join the scheme. Okay, so it sounds like he announced the thing. It's kind of like, remember rebuilding Gaza and making it American or something, and he was going to do that? Well, Netanyahu wasn't aware of that. He just announced it. So that seems to be what was going on here. These countries didn't know. France wasn't about to join the scheme, and that's part of the package. And then Ukraine celebrates the Patriot deliveries, but there are a few buts. It seems that Trump didn't inform Europeans that they would be purchasing weapons for Kyiv from him. Instead of a well-developed plan, he presented only a general outline, which some governments learned about only after the fact, following the meeting between Trump and Rutte. Did you know that? Are you in the 1% club? However, now comes the hardest part, agreeing on who will actually give up their valuable systems, including Patriot missile systems. So they don't even have that worked out yet, but they're on the way. Okay, number 7, Al Franken. I didn't even know Al Franken was still out there tweeting. Al Franken's a former U.S. senator who stepped down in disgrace a number of years ago. Trump says he'll impose severe sanctions on Russia if Putin doesn't make a deal with Ukraine within 50 days. Well, why not 40 days or 30 or even 10? Al, that's a good question. I mean, got to give him his props. That is a good question. But what is it? We don't exactly know what it is yet or why that's going on. But here we have Anton Gerashenko talking about Mark Rutte saying this. So today, if you're Beijing or Delhi or you're in Brazil or you know that it's coming for you, you might want to call Vladimir Putin and say, hey, friend, we are still buying stuff from you. But you have got to get serious when it comes to these negotiations on a ceasefire or a peace deal. Otherwise, we'll get hit by these secondary sanctions. So these 50 days or 40 or 30 or 10 are for secondary sanctions. Well, what are secondary sanctions? It's not, as I saw in DW, going to affect Russia directly. Well, it'll affect Russia, but only because other nations stop buying things from Russia. But it's not going to squeeze out Russia any more than Russia's being squeezed. This is Gabrielis Landsbergis saying Trump's threats to tariff the tiny levels of trade between the U.S. and Russia would only be taken seriously in the Kremlin if he also threatened to go after companies in China, India, and others who let Russia get around the rules. And that's what secondary sanctions will do. So that's what we need to understand about what's going on. Here's Gabrielis Landsbergis explaining it, former foreign minister of Lithuania.
When you look at the trade between Russia and the United States, it's just above $3 billion.
Sounds like a lot, but it's not really a lot.
So to give you an example, trade between Lithuania and Latvia is closer to 5 billion. So I don't think that even 100% on 3 billion is anything that Putin would be scared about. So it is definitely not serious. And then again, it's 50 days of breathing time for Putin. How many people will die through that time? If we calculate the sanction packages that Europe has imposed on Russia, approximate amount of financial damage that was inflicted on Russia is close to €500 billion.
Yep.
So this what we have managed to do, and this has not stopped Putin, right? It is an immense pain that the Russian economy is going through, but it has not stopped Putin yet, right? Now what we're talking inflicting 100% tariff on 3 billion. If President Trump would be clear that he's ready to go after China, after India, after those companies who are procuring Russian oil, Russian gas that help avoid the sanctions, circumvent the sanctions, basically make them, survivable for Russian economy. Well, that would probably be a serious message.
Okay, so if they go after secondary sanctions on those that are buying from Russia, it'll hurt. If it's just going after Russia, of course not. Now, 50 days. This is the part that I don't understand, and maybe you can help me with. Why 50 days? Why not 2 weeks? Why not 10 days? Al Franken's question was still a good question, even though he's Al Franken. So, okay, why not? Tell me in the comments below. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.